Thank you very much. So, ministers, thank you so much for hosting us here in beautiful Montreal, in beautiful Canada. We are honored to be here. I'm sure you are honored to host the conference. Most people think that's a once-in-a-lifetime thing to do. But actually, I have had the honor twice. Because first I did it as minister in Denmark, and then I was appointed commissioner, and then I could host it again. So, not to give you any good ideas, but Alexander Stubb, the president of Finland, has suggested that Canada becomes a member of the European Union. And then maybe one of you could become commissioner and host it again. In all seriousness, we do really appreciate the close ties that the European Union has with Canada, ties that are becoming even closer day by day right now. I'll get back to that. Fatih, thank you for your leadership. To be honest, I don't know what we would do without you and the IEA in these turbulent times. You really play an invaluable role in giving us the data, helping us translate the data, giving us advice. And by us, I mean more or less all policymakers in the world, and especially us in Europe. We really value it. So thank you so much. And Brian, thank you so much for your hard work on bringing energy efficiency high on the agenda. And thanks to the whole of the IEA for your excellent work. So, friends, I started on a light note, but let's be very honest. We live in turbulent times. Let me give you just 3 examples of what that looks like from the EU. 1, we've paid more than 50 billion euros more for our energy since the war started in Iran without getting one single molecule more than we normally get. 50 billion euros. Imagine how much renewable energy you could get for that money. Imagine how many energy efficiency tools you could employ for that money. 2, this week has been the hottest ever recorded in European history. People die. Climate change is not something that might happen in the future. It's not something that leads to a little bit of volatility in the weather and sometimes actually a nicer summer. Climate change is a real issue and it's killing people, and it will only get worse. And this is Europe I'm talking about. I'm very well aware that in many more vulnerable parts of our planet, climate change hits even harder and has even more detrimental consequences. 3, we have a war in our continent. We have a country that's negotiating to become a member of the European Union, who's in war with Russia. People are being killed every day. Russia is bombing brutally, even civilians, ruining the infrastructure, energy infrastructure, also in the wintertime when it's minus 20 in Kiev. And some member states of the European Union fear that they might be next. Member states of the European Union, member states of NATO, has a reason to fear that they will be attacked by Russia. At the center of all of this is energy. Affordability. We need to get the prices down. People are struggling to pay their bills. Companies are struggling to compete. Climate change. Energy is still 70% of our emissions. We need to get the emissions from the energy sector down fast. Security. If you don't have energy security, you don't have security. I served as minister in Denmark in February 22, and we spent the first days and months preparing for what we would have to do if Putin had turned off the taps for us, because we were dependent on Russian energy. And we would have had to force companies to close down. Send men and women in uniform to close down the companies if they didn't do it when we asked them. This was in Denmark. We were not even half as exposed as many other countries. If you're dependent of any outside source, especially if that source turns out to be an enemy, you're not secure. Now, the only good news is that we do know what to do. It's not as if we just have to lean back and accept our fate. All of these three challenges can be solved. How? Well, by deploying more renewables, first and foremost. Faster. Renewables are cheaper, they're homegrown, they're more energy efficient. So it's not either looking at using renewables or deploying energy efficiency. It goes hand in hand. It's about getting the black molecules out of our energy systems and replacing them with green electrons. Electrification is at the core of this, and electrification is 9 out of 10 instances more energy efficient. An EV, an electric vehicle, not only is it nicer to drive, it's also much more energy efficient. So, we do know what to do. It's always been a riddle to me why it is that energy efficiency is not higher on the agenda. Even if you believed that fossil fuels were the answer in the future, which hardly nobody does anymore, maybe with few exceptions, one of them in a very big country south of where we are now. But even if you believe that, why would you be against using the energy more rationally? What kind of a sector is the energy sector if we think, contrary to all other sectors, that it's not a good idea to use your scarce resources rationally and efficiently? It doesn't make sense. That's why it's so important that we have conferences like this. That's why, Fatih, you're stretching it a little bit with how far you're moving it from Brussels, I think, but I will actually fly anywhere in the world to participate in these conferences, so please continue to do so. That's why it's so important that the IEA, decision makers that are here, companies, organizations that are here, thank you all so much for taking this serious. Even though it's a tall order, let's try and help each other getting energy efficiency at the center of all policies on energy in the world, at the center of the public debate discourse of our energy future all over the world. It's difficult, it's a tall order, as I said, but as a very famous Canadian hockey player once put it, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Thank you.